Okay, so recently I got a book. I don't remember where I got it. I feel like I got it. Oh, I remember now. I got it at a vintage bookshop down in the downtown area of my town. And basically what it is the literature of ancient Egypt, if you can see that with my shitty MacBook camera. And it basically has a bunch of stories that the ancient Egyptians told, whether they be like pyramid texts and stuff like that, or if they're more like actual stories, or maybe even propaganda from like the New Kingdom. So I just found a lot of them really, really interesting, so I wanted to share them with people who are just like interested in what kind of stories the ancient Egyptians wrote. Some basic rules for Egyptian literature. There's a lot of repetition in it, because a lot of it is like prayers, and you know how in prayers you say like things over and over again. I don't know if that's a thing that Christians do. I don't remember church very well. Okay. So, one of my favorites is the Shipwrecked Sailor, and it's from the Middle Kingdom, so Middle Egyptian literature. Let's see here. So I'm gonna talk about it a little bit, based off this paragraph in here, and then I'll read out the story in shorter terms. So, this is a story that was really only found in one record, a single manuscript from early in the Middle Kingdom, likely to be written in Dynasty 11. It seems to be complete from beginning to end, unlike a lot of other texts, and it begins abruptly with an expedition commander's aide addressing him to console him on an unsuccessful expedition to the south, which is where Nubia is, or Kush, whichever one you like to call it. So this is a story within a story within a story. So, in order for the commander's aide to cheer his commander up, he relates a set of similar experiences which he had. In the course of these, a serpent relates a story. So during the details of the story that the aide is telling, he talks about the snake, and the snake told him a story. Some view the entire tale as a sort of psychological journey, which is perhaps likely. At the end of the story, the commander speaks his only words, suggesting that he is downcast at the thought of reporting on his unsuccessful mission. The astute lieutenant spoke. "May your wish be satisfied, Commander. See, we have reached home. The mallet has been taken, the mooring post driven in, and the prow rope set upon the ground. Praise has been rendered, gods have been thanked, and every man embraces his companion. Our crew has returned safe without loss to our troops. Now that we have reached the limits of Wawat and we have passed by Senmut, we have returned in peace, and we have obtained our land." The land, it refers to a quarry, which often happened in the south of the Nile. Egyptians would go to the south to find these giant quarries, and that's one of the reasons they wanted to have ownership over Nubia, because Nubia had a lot of resources, a lot of quarries that could be used. Also, sorry if my... That'll work, right? Okay. The aide continues. "Listen to me, Commander. I'm devoid of exaggeration. Wash yourself, place water on your fingers, then you can reply when you are interrogated, and speak to the king with self-assurance. You will answer without stammering. For the speech of a man saves him, and his words gain him indulgence. Act according to your judgment, yet speaking to you in this fashion is wearisome. Let me tell you some similar thing which happened to me myself." So this is the first story within a story about the... This is Commander's aide talking about a story while he himself is in a story. He says, "I went to the mining country for the sovereign. I went down to the sea in a boat." The sea meaning the Mediterranean or the Red Sea. "In a boat 120 cubits long and 40 cubits wide. 120 sailors from among the best of Egypt were in it. Whether they looked at the sky or whether they looked at the land, their hearts were fiercer than those of lions. They could foretell a storm." Sorry, I just found a bit of fabric in the book. "They could tell wind before it came and a downpour before it happened. A storm wind broke out while we were at sea, before we had touched the land. The wind was lifted up, but it repeated with a wave of 8 cubits in it. There was a plank which struck it, the wave, for me. Then the boat died, and of those who were in it, not a single one survived. Next I was set upon an island by the surf of the sea, and I spent 3 days alone, my heart as my companion." So essentially what's happened here is that the commander's aide was in a shipwreck, and he was the only man to survive, and he ended up alone on an island. "I slept inside a cabin of wood. I embraced the shade. I stretched forth my 2 legs to learn what I might put in my mouth. There I found figs and dates, and all excellent kinds of vegetables. Sycamore figs were there, and not sycamore figs. And cucumbers, as if they were cultivated. Fish were there, and birds. There was not anything which was not within it. Then I heard the sound of a thunderclap, but I thought it was the surf of the sea. The trees were shaking, and the ground was quaking. When I uncovered my face, I discovered that it was a serpent coming along. He was 30 cubits. His beard was more than 2 cubits, and his body was plated with gold. His 2 eyebrows were of real lapis lazuli, and he was coiled up in the front. He opened his mouth to me while I was on my belly in his presence, and he said to me, "Who is it who has brought you? Who is it who has brought you, little one? Who is it who has brought you? If you delay in telling me who it is who has brought you to this island, I shall see that you find yourself in ashes, transformed into one who's not seen." One sec. The aide continues. "Although he was speaking to me, I did not hear it. When I was in his presence, I did not know myself. He placed me in his mouth, and he took me off to his rest house. He set me down without touching me, and I was intact without anything being taken away from me. He's opened his mouth to me while I was on my belly in his presence, and he said to me, 'Who is it who has brought you?'" So, this is where that saying comes in, where I was talking about earlier about how in a lot of ancient literature things are like repeated over and over again. So it's all just repeated, but now this time, the aide says, "And I answered him, my arms bent in his presence, and I said to him, 'It is I who has gone down to the mines on a mission of the sovereign in a boat 120 cubits long and 40 cubits wide.'" Of course, the repetition again. 120 sailors from among the best of Egypt were in it. And then, again, another part of it repeats. He is describing to the snake what happened to him, so he's just repeating the same part of the story again. And he says, "Behold me at your side, then I was brought to this island by the surf of the sea. He," the snake, "said to me, 'Do not fear, little one, do not turn white, you've reached me. Indeed, God has allowed you to live. He's brought you to this island of the Ka.'" Now, Ka is actually a part of the human soul that the Egyptians believed. I don't remember which part of the soul it is, but it's essentially one of the parts of the human soul that gets kind of ejected from the body once the person dies. Okay, "He's brought you to this island of Ka, within which there is not anything which does not exist. It is full of all good things. See, you shall spend month after month until you complete 4 months within this island. A boat shall come back from home with sailors in it whom you know. You shall go home with them, and you shall die in your village." And now something important to remember here is that Egyptians very much wanted to die in their homeland so they could be buried properly within the range of the Nile, because that was where their gods lived. So they definitely wanted to be home when they died, because that way they could be buried correctly. The aide continues. "How joyful is the one who relates what he has tasted after painful affairs are past." Oh, sorry. This is what the snake says. "How joyful it is, the one who relates what he's tasted after painful affairs are past. Let me relate to you something similar which took place in this island when I was on it with my brothers and sisters and the children among them." This is the story within a story within a story. This is the snake telling the story now. "We were 75 serpents, my children and my brothers and sisters. And I will not call to mind to you a little daughter whom I, as a wise man, brought away. Then a star fell, and because of it these went up in fire." This mentioned star might actually be a meteor. "It happened completely, yet I did not burn, for I was not among them, but I died for them when I found them in a single heap of corpses." Thus the story ends. "If you would be brave, regulate your desire. Then you will fill your embrace with the children. You will kiss your wife, and you will see your house again, for it is better than anything. You will reach the home in which you were once, in the midst of your brothers and sisters." And the aide continues. "As I was stretched out on my belly and touching the ground in his presence, I said to him, 'I shall relate your prowess to the sovereign, and I shall inform him of your greatness.'" We can skip past this part. He's been essentially just giving him a bunch of offerings and saying you will be thanked. "I shall sacrifice to you an oxen as a burnt offering." More and more offerings, the delights of Egypt. The aide continues. "Then he laughed at me because of these things which I had said out of the craftiness of his heart, and he said to me, 'Myrrh is not abundant with you, although you have become a possessor of incense. Indeed, I am the prince of Punt. Myrrh belongs to me. That Heknu oil, of which you spoke about bringing me, why, it is the main product of this island.'" Okay, so, quick rewind there. Punt is the ancient city that Egypt was really good friends with. Not the ancient city, like the ancient country, kind of, that Egypt was really good friends with. They did a lot of trading together. This is saying that the snake is the prince of Punt, and generally the agreed area that archaeologists or historians think that Punt was in was like the Horn of Africa, so that wouldn't make sense, because the Horn of Africa is not an island. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm just being dumb. Alright, the snake says, "Now it will come to pass that you will separate yourself from this place, and you will never see this island, since it will have turned into waves." Then the boat came, as he had foretold before. I went and I set myself high on a tree, and I recognized those who were in it. I went to report it, but I found that he knew it, and he said to me, "Farewell, little one, to your home, you will see your children. Place my good repute in your town, this is all I ask from you." I placed myself on my belly, I bowed, and he gave me a cargo consisting of different types of offerings: incense, bread, cakes, elephant tusks, baboons, every precious thing. The aide says, "It then came to pass that I placed myself upon my belly to thank him, and he said to me, 'You will arrive home within 2 months, and you will fill your embrace with the children. You will become young again at home, and you will be properly buried.'" The aide says, "I went down to the shore in the vicinity of the ship, and I called out to the troops who were in this ship. I gave praise upon the shore to the lord of this island, and those who were in it did likewise," in it meaning the ship. "We sailed northward to the residence city of the sovereign, and we arrived at the residence in 2 months, according to everything he had said. Then I entered before the sovereign, and I presented to him this produce which I had brought back from within this island. He thanked me before the magistrates of the entire land. I was appointed lieutenant, and I was assigned 200 people. Look at me now that I have touched the land, after I have seen what I have experienced. Listen to my speech, for it is good for men to hearken." He said to me, "Do not act the part of the astute man, friend. What is the good of giving water to a goose just before it is killed?" Now this is the only line that the commander actually has in the whole story. It has come from its beginning to its end, as it has been found in writing, and the writing described excellent of fingers. Ameni-san, amena. So there's that one. I like that because, I don't know, I just like the idea of being shipwrecked on an island. It's not particularly important historically speaking. It's, I don't know, I don't feel like it has like a lot of political connotations. It's not really a product of its time. I feel like it could be written at any point. But anyway, I might do another one of these videos. I don't know how long this type of a video is, so I'm just gonna move into the next one. There's the story of Sinuhei, but I don't like that story very much because it is a lot of propaganda. Okay, I found a good one. So this is titled A Ghost Story. I read this one before. It's kind of fun. It does give you more of an insight into what Egyptians thought of spirits, because when you hear a ghost story, like, ooh, it's gonna be spooky, it's gonna be scary, but no, for them it's just like, oh shit, we gotta help this person get on with their journey to the afterlife. So it's not the same type of connotations as it is in modern times. And that's described in this excerpt right here that explains the story before we actually get into it. So the beginning of the story is rather fragmented, but we'll try. We'll try. So, according to his habit, following the advice which had given to him, and he had ferried across and reached his home, he caused there to be made blank, and all sorts of good things. And here it begins to be a little bit better. Now while I was looking toward the west, he went up onto the roof, and he invoked the gods of the sky, and the gods of the earth, southern, northern, western, and eastern, and the gods of the underworld, saying to them, "Send me that august spirit." And so he came and said to him, "I am your blank, who's come to sleep during the night next to his tomb." And then the high priest of Amun, Khonsenhab, that's a mixture, that's kind of named after Khonsu. Anyway, Khonsenhab said to him, "Please tell me your name, your father's name, and your mother's name, that I may offer to them and do for them all that has been done for one in their position." Said that august spirit to him, "Nebusemek is my name, Ankhmen is my father's name, and Tamshas is my mother's name." Then the high priest of Amun-Re, king of the gods, Khonsenhab, said to him, "Tell me what you want that I might have it done for you, and I shall have a sepulchre prepared anew for you, and have a coffin of gold and Sisyphus wood made for you, and you shall blank. And I shall have done for you all that is done for one who is in your position." Said the spirit to him, "There is none, overheated, who is exposed to winds in winter, hungry without food. It is not my desire to flow on like the inundation, nor blank. I would not occupy myself with that simply to say blank." Now after he had finished speaking, the high priest of Amun-Re, king of the gods, Khonsenhab, sat down and wept beside him with a face full of tears. Blank, the spirit, blank, and he, i.e. Khonsenhab, said to him, "I'll remain here without eating or drinking, without growing old or becoming young. I will not see sunlight, nor will I inhale northerly breezes, but darkness shall be in my sight every day. I will not get up early to depart." That's kind of a reference to the afterlife, departing, getting up early when the sun rises. Then the spirit said to him, "When I was alive upon earth, I was overseer of the treasury of King Rahotpe, sorry, and I was lieutenant of the army, for I used to be at the head of men and just to the rear of the gods. I went to rest in year 14 during the summer months of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Mentuhotep. He gave me my 4 canopic jars and my sarcophagus of alabaster, and he done for me all that is done for one in my position." So essentially, is that he's being given what he needs for someone in his position, as in someone who is dead. And what the dead need is a proper coffin, and they need their canopic jars for the organs and such. "He laid me to rest in my tomb within its shaft of 10 cubits. See, the ground beneath me has collapsed and dropped away, so that the wind blows there in the grave and seizes a tongue." Seizes a tongue is kind of obscure. It perhaps refers to the howling of the wind in the subterranean chambers of the tomb. Now as for your having said to me, I shall have the sepulchre prepared anew, I have it 4 times already that one will act in accordance with them. But what am I to make of such things as you have said to me, once again, in order that all these promises may finally come to pass? Then the high priest of Amun-Re, Constanhab, said to him, Please express to me a nice commission such as fit to be done for you, in the order that I may have it done for you. Otherwise, I shall simply have 5 men servants and 5 maid servants, totaling 10, devoted to you in order to pour libation water for you, and have a sack of emmer delivered daily to be offered to you. Moreover, the overseer of offerings shall pour libation water for you. Then the spirit of Nebuchadnezzar said to him, Of what use are the things you do? Doesn't a tree grow through sunlight? Doesn't it sprout foliage? The stone will never proceed to age. It perishes only through blank. There. A little water blanks, oh gosh. Amun-Re, king of the gods, 3 men, each one blank. And he ferried across and ascended blank, next to the holy temple of the king, Neb-Hepetre, son of Re-Mentahotep. And they entered blank in it, and they explored 25 cubits along the king's causeway at Deir el-Bahri. At Deir el-Bahri. My apologies. Jesus Christ. That's just the modern name for it, though, I believe. Then they went back down to the riverbank, and they returned to the high priest of Amun-Re, Constanhab, and found him officiating in the temple of Amun-Re. And he said to them, Hopefully you have returned, having discovered the excellent place for making the name of that spirit called Nebuchadnezzar, endure unto eternity, aka the afterlife, living forever. Then the 3 of them said to him altogether, We have discovered the excellent place to make the name of that spirit endure. And so they sat down before him and made holiday. His heart began to rejoice when they said, blank, and the sun came up from the horizon. Then he called the deputy of the estate of Amun-Benkau and informed him about his project. He returned at evening to spend the night in day. And the story ends there, the rest of it is lost. It's too fragmented to put together. So, that gives you an idea of just like how ghosts were thought of, because it's nothing like how they're thought of in modern times. Ghosts are just seen as people. They don't go insane on Earth, because everyone just makes sure to have like super complicated death rituals. As again, I love to say this, the Egyptians were not obsessed with death. They were obsessed with life, and they were obsessed with finding a way for it to continue after death. And that's all that their religion was to them, really. It was finding a way to live in a field of reeds, in this beautiful place, where there is very little trouble and very little hurt, where you can live forever with your family, and you will forever be plentiful. And so, yeah, Egyptians really loved life, and that's one of the reasons I love studying them.